Reflections, the most controversial of the My Little Pony comics, especially early. Comics 17 through 21 are tour de force of fan fiction destroying, canon verifying, and debate-laden pages. These four comics are the most thought-inducing comics thus far in my readings, and I can see where the problems lie. The, the story the story picks up when Celestia goes missing. Well, that's about the third time in this sucker that's happened. But strangely, she's really gone missing this time. And Luna is worried enough to call in our Harmony 6 and Spike, which he mentions repeatedly in the book, that he's the seventh member of this intrepid team. What Luna suspects is something terrible has happened. And where she's ran off to is not an alternate dimension. Here is the first problem with the book, and here's probably where a little bit further explanation and sparks of thoughtian ideas come in. You see, the alternate world, or the alternate Equestria given in Reflections, is not an alternate dimension. It is an alternate timeline. So, what's my evidence for this? Well, one, in this timeline, Sombra is good. Good. The royal sisters that we know are evil. And everything's flip-flopped, like Bizarre World in the DC universe. However, the reason why I justify this as an alternate timeline is, of course, Fiendship is Magic #1, where we'll get to later in Pony Panels. In Fiendship #1, it actually explains that Sombra was a good-natured soul at one point, wanting to do good things for his girlfriend Radiant Hope, and to be around the Crystal Heart. The only difference is he was born evil. If this is true, then wouldn't this mean that the world of Reflections pretty much throws out Fiendship is Magic and justifies that Sombra was always a naturally born good person? Which would then take out one of the show's major villains, and seeing that everything is bizarro. Bad guys are good, typical good guys are bad. There is a justification in the main dimension that all these events could have happened, sans Sombra making a few life-changing decisions, which puts this at a timeline. The world of Equestria Girls is also verified as canon. Sorry, Hasbro, everything is canon, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you want to try or not. Everything, and I mean everything, is canon. And this sucker brings up Twilight's trips to Canterlot High via first Equestria Girls movie, on 3 different occasions. But the big bit of information you get in Reflections is the relationship between Celestia and Stars World Leviathan. You see, they were messing with this time traveling, not even calling it dimension hopping, time traveling dimension mirror for quite some time with some success. Celestia and Star Swirl used to jump back and forth frequently between the 2 dimensions. The negative here is Celestia didn't follow the rule of time. In other words, known as the butterfly effect. Change one thing over there, you may change the history, dimension, and the stability of the dimension that you've come from. And falling in love and writing a pact of always being in love. Love certainly quantifies as just that. And their dimension hopping, time traveling trips have caused a nasty rift. And once our Harmony 6 get there upon trying to figure out the good Samra's problem. See, good Samra wants to get rid of evil Celestia and evil Luna. And good Celestia, our side, thinks that our Harmony 6 can solve the problem. Only one catch. If they harmed the princesses, they themselves in the other world would be hurt. This also justifies my timeline theory. If it were 2 dimensions battling over each other, the 2 sides could have easily figured out a way around this problem. But seeing that it's 2 dimensions linked within the same timeline, the timeline in the dimension must go Highlander rule and say that there can be only one. So much so that the dimensional divide starts breaking apart, and it looks like our Equestria that we know is about to collapse. And that is, of course, until the good Samra decides to go evil to put the timeline back in dimensional balance, thus saving our Equestria from dimensional destruction. And thus, unfortunately, breaking up the happy couple once and for all. We do learn a lot about how deeply connected the Royal Sisters are in this comic, and especially a lot about Celestia herself, how she tends to let emotion drive her decisions, not logic or proper thinking. Sometimes when she gets too emotional into a situation, she'll rush in and worse yet, forget about the consequences of her actions, thus leading to even grander mistakes. And when you put it on scale to the major points of contention in the series for her character, this shines through even more apparently. Luna is the pony of action. Whenever there's a problem to be solved, she wants to be out in the front lines, ready to pull up her sword and deal with the problem, aggression if necessary. But in times of absolute calm, she can be quite the jokester, as proved to when the royal sisters are talking amongst themselves in the comic, or when she's playing a assortment of Hasbro board games, meaning Monopoly, Mousetrap, and Scrabble with Spike. Shameless advertising. The good King Samra is a great character, and even imposes wisdom upon my beloved Twilight. Good beloved wisdom. Something that even Star Swirl the Bearded didn't learn. And boy, oh boy, does this comic shatter the myth of Star Swirl the Bearded. He's rude, he's obstinate, he's arrogant. He kind of deals with things in whimsy. And often does things off a crazy impulse. He uses his super brain to overthink ideas, almost like Doc Holliday and Doc Brown in Back to the Future. And over eccentric, Star Swirl the Bearded loves him some himself. And in terms of a teacher, he's not a very good one, not imposing any wise knowledge upon Celestia, and even taking control of the situation when the dimensional divide starts cracking. To prevent a bigger problem, Star Swirl takes the power of choice out of Celestia's hands, imparting these words that a ruler must be able to make the tough decisions, and sometimes the decisions must be taken out of your hands. In fact, that's a bad lesson really to teach kids, that if things get bad enough, let the parents take over and decide. Instead, Star Swirl the Beard, regardless of dimensional circumstance, should have let Celestia see her decision through, all the way through, and learn the consequences and the devastation for herself. Yes, this would have meant mass death and genocide. But genocide that is perfectly acceptable. For the matter at hand, to teach Celestia the means of making incredibly hard choices. In fact, it wasn't even Celestia at the end of the day that chose the dimensional divides to be restored. It was once again Sombra showing the act of a true ruler, making the hardest decision that one can make, self-sacrifice for the betterment of a kingdom, or in this case, two of them. Uh, whole, whole entire timeline saved because one's loved, even though one of them went evil, did in fact conquer all, showing Samra to be the stronger, truer leader, and putting Celestia as a ruler in the worst spot she could physically be. Be not only devastated, but unlegitimized. This is once again another reason that justifies my original episodes of Sparks of Thought. Celestia must die. And this comic just reaffirmed my original feeling upon reading it. The pages are beautifully orchestrated. The lines sometimes are a bit on the confusing and the plot wise. But overall, the plot is emotional, information packed, and somewhat controversial and dark, with ponies getting hurt for the first time ever. Big major battles, emotional swings like you wouldn't believe, but most of all, justifying both the basic timeline theory, and making Equestria Girls even more canon than before this comic, but definitely after it. Every character plays their part beautifully, and stands the controversy. If you're an analyzer like me, this is an absolute must read. Probably justify or rip apart some of your theories. It most certainly justified a few of my own on this trip. And I can see why this set of comics is often the most talked about in the comic series. I give Reflections the second of these perfect scores for the comics. A 6 out of 6. Whether you love it or hate it, it is an absolute must read. And any read, especially if something fictional that can make you think of the broader context of something you love, and even the characters within, are the absolute perfect reads. Pick Reflections up. Seriously. If you read any set of the My Little Pony comics, these are the comics to read. Find peace in your own nirvana. Thanks for watching.